She had always dreamed of a fairy tale love. But when her husband's charm gave way to eerie habits, disappearing housemaids, and a dark hunger he could no longer hide, she found herself trapped in a house with a predator wearing the face of the man she loved. In a land far from the tranquil villages of old, where the vast cityscapes met the horizon in every direction, there lived a young woman named Ava Turner. She had always dreamed of a life filled with romance, love, and the comforts of an ideal marriage. It was in the bustling metropolis of Chicago, where lights dazzled and the streets never slept, that she met her husband, Ethan Cole. Ethan was everything Ava had ever wanted in a partner. Charming, well-dressed, and well-spoken. They had met at a high-end art gallery, their first encounter marked by laughter, shared glances, and a connection that felt almost fated. Ethan's demeanor was one of quiet elegance, and though he was slightly aloof, his kindness and calm presence seemed to draw Ava closer. He always seemed to know the right things to say, yet his quiet nature left her with a sense of mystery that she found fascinating. They dated for 3 years before getting married. Ava could not have been more thrilled, thinking that her dreams had finally come true. But there was something odd about her new husband. At first, she thought nothing of it. Ethan never ate any of the food she prepared for him during their courtship. Every time she offered him a meal, he would politely decline, offering some excuse. "I'm not hungry," he would say, or "I'm trying to watch my weight." Ava, believing that all men had their peculiarities, did not think much of it. But after they married and began their life together in their spacious home, she found herself growing more perplexed. It wasn't just the food that Ethan rejected. He never seemed to touch any meals when they dined with guests either. It was almost as though food had no appeal to him. "Why don't you ever eat?" Ava finally asked one evening, after they had attended a dinner party at a friend's house, where the guests had noticed Ethan's reluctance to partake. "Well, my dear, it's just, a small habit I've had since I was younger," Ethan replied, his voice as smooth as ever. But there was a flicker in his eyes that made Ava uneasy. "It's not a big deal. I'm just not really fond of eating in front of people." Though the excuse seemed flimsy, Ava brushed it aside. She loved Ethan and was willing to accept his quirks, even though there was a growing sense of unease deep in her gut. But it wasn't just the food that started to bother her. It was a string of housemaids that kept disappearing. Each time they hired a new housemaid, she would mysteriously vanish after only a few days or weeks. At first, Ava thought it was simply bad luck, or perhaps that the women had left for personal reasons. But when she began to notice the repeated pattern, she grew suspicious. One day, after their most recent housemaid, Molly, left without a word, Ava decided to take matters into her own hands. The next time the house was unusually quiet, Ava asked Ethan if he knew where Molly had gone. "They need rest sometimes," he said casually. "Maybe you should spend some quality time with them until things cool down." Then, laughing at his own remark, he added, "You know how they get? Some women just can't handle city life." But Ava wasn't convinced. Her instincts told her something was terribly wrong. That night, as Ethan fell into a deep, almost unnatural sleep, Ava heard a strange noise coming from the garden behind their house. It was a kind of sound that didn't belong in a city, low growling followed by a rustling noise. It was almost as though something or someone was rummaging through the bushes. Unable to shake her curiosity, Ava quietly got out of bed, grabbed a flashlight, and crept toward the sound. She stepped lightly, making sure not to make a single noise. The air was cool and heavy with the scent of night-blooming flowers, but Ava could barely focus on the beauty of the night. Her heart pounded with fear and anticipation. As she reached the edge of the garden, she saw something that made her blood run cold. There, under the shadows of the tall oak trees, was Ethan, but this was not the man she knew. His body was contorted in a grotesque way. His skin stretched and rippling as though something animalistic was clawing its way out from beneath. His hands had transformed into long, claw-like fingers, and his face, his once handsome face, had changed into something monstrous. His eyes glowed with an unnatural light as he crouched over something. No, someone. Ava's heart stopped as she realized it was the body of Molly, the missing maid. Ethan was hunched over her, tearing into the woman's body with an insatiable hunger, devouring her flesh as though he hadn't eaten in years. The sickening sound of bones cracking filled the air as he tore the woman apart. It all clicked then. Ethan was not a man at all. He was a creature of the night, a monster wearing the guise of a human. The reason he had never eaten her food, the reason he had never touched a meal, he didn't need it. His true hunger was for human flesh. The maids, the ones who had disappeared, they had been his prey, his victims. Ava could barely breathe, her body frozen in shock and horror. But she knew she couldn't stand by and let Ethan continue this terror. He had fooled her into marrying him, seduced her with charm and deceit. But she would not be his next victim. With a mixture of courage and dread, Ava backed away quietly, retreating into the house. Her mind raced. She had to get out. She had to save herself. But as she turned to run, she felt the weight of Ethan's presence behind her. Ava! Ethan's voice, now low and guttural, called her name from the darkness. You've seen too much. Ava knew then it was either her life or his. With all the strength she could muster, she dashed through the hallway and locked herself inside a room. Her heart pounded as she held her breath, listening for the sound of Ethan's footsteps. She had married a beast, a murderer, and now she had to survive him. Ava's heart thumped in her chest as she crouched low in the small room, every muscle in her body tensed, her mind racing. The door was locked, but she knew that was no guarantee of safety. She could feel Ethan's presence, even though she couldn't hear him, his inhuman senses far sharper than hers. He was waiting, hunting. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours as Ava held her breath, not daring to make a sound. She could hear the faint rustle of the wind outside, but inside, there was only silence. Her thoughts swirled. How had it come to this? The man she had loved, the man she had trusted with her life, was a monster, a predator. Ava's mind replayed the strange moments from their marriage, each one now filled with ominous significance. The way Ethan had never eaten, the way the housemaids had disappeared, one after another, the strange, almost imperceptible scent that had clung to him at times. Something not quite human, though no one else had ever noticed. She had been blind to the truth, blinded by love, by the idea of the perfect man. And now, she was paying the price. Suddenly, the silence was shattered. A loud crash came from downstairs, the unmistakable sound of the front door being smashed open. Ava's heart skipped a beat. Ethan was coming. She turned to the window, the only possible escape route. The moonlight outside illuminated the tall fence surrounding their property. It was too high to jump from the second floor, but if she could just reach the ground, she could run, disappear into the city. There would be no time to pack, no time for anything but escape. Her pulse raced as she moved swiftly to the window, peering down. There was no sign of Ethan, but she could hear his heavy, lumbering footsteps below. She didn't have much time. With shaking hands, Ava opened the window and climbed onto the windowsill, trying to steady herself. She glanced back one last time at the room, the place where she had once felt safe, where she had once dreamed of a future with Ethan. It was now a prison, and she could never return. Just as she was about to lower herself to the ground, a voice boomed from below. "Don't be foolish." She froze. Ethan stood in the garden, his silhouette monstrous and distorted in the dim light. His body was more beastly than ever before, his face now entirely unrecognizable. His glowing eyes locked onto hers, burning with hunger and rage. "You can't escape me," Ethan's voice growled, deep and guttural. "You're mine. You always have been." Ava's heart pounded in her chest as the reality of her situation sank in. She had no choice. She had to act, or she would become just another victim of his twisted hunger. Without thinking, she leapt from the windowsill, landing with a roll to absorb the impact. Her feet hit the ground hard, but she kept moving, running as fast as she could toward the gate. Ethan's roar echoed through the night air as he began to chase her. She could hear his steps behind her, slow at first, as though he were savoring the chase, but they were growing faster. Each breath she took was like fire in her lungs, but she didn't dare look back. She couldn't afford to slow down. The gate was only a few yards away, but Ava's strength was fading. Her legs ached, her feet burned, and she could feel Ethan drawing closer, his monstrous form moving with terrifying speed. She reached for the gate, her hands trembling as she tried to undo the latch, when suddenly a clawed hand gripped her shoulder, spinning her around. She gasped as Ethan's face loomed inches from hers, the stench of blood and death overwhelming her senses. "Did you really think you could escape me, Ava?" Ethan whispered, his breath hot and foul. "I made you believe I was a man of your dreams, didn't I? But now you know the truth." Ava's eyes widened with terror, but she didn't give up. Her mind raced, searching for any way out, any way to survive. Then, in the distance, something caught her eye, a glimmer of light from the neighbor's house. Someone was awake. Someone was nearby. Desperation surged through her. Twisting in Ethan's grip, she broke free for just a moment and ran toward the light, praying that anyone would hear her screams. But Ethan was faster. In one swift motion, he grabbed her again, his claws sinking deep into her arm. The pain was sharp, but it was nothing compared to the fear consuming her. "You're mine," he hissed. "You always were. You'll never escape me." Tears stung Ava's eyes as she fought against him, trying to pull away, but it was no use. Ethan's strength was overwhelming. Just as she thought all hope was lost, a voice broke through the chaos. A voice she didn't recognize, firm and commanding. "Let her go, demon." From behind Ethan, a tall figure emerged, wielding a glowing staff. Ava blinked, stunned. It was an old man dressed in a robe of deep indigo. His face was lined with wisdom and power, and there was an aura of something ancient about him. Something that felt like a force beyond nature itself. Ethan snarled, turning toward the old man. "You should not have come here," he growled, his voice dripping with malice. The old man raised a staff, and a burst of blinding light shot forth, striking Ethan square in the chest. The impact was like thunder. Ethan recoiled, his monstrous form flickering between human and beast, as though the light were forcing his true nature to surface. "Who are you?" Ethan demanded, struggling to regain control. The old man's voice was calm, but filled with authority. "I am the one who protects this city from creatures like you," the old man said firmly. "You are a demon, cursed to roam the earth, feeding on the innocent, but your reign of terror ends tonight." Ethan let out a howl of rage, his body contorting violently as if he were fighting against the power of the staff. "You cannot defeat me," he bellowed. "I am eternal." But the old man did not flinch. He raised the staff higher, and the light grew brighter, surrounding Ethan like a cage. The beast howled again, but it was no use. Slowly, he began to shrink, his monstrous form diminishing until, with a final cry, he collapsed into a heap on the ground, motionless. Ava stood frozen, her mind reeling from the scene unfolding before her. The old man turned to her, his eyes filled with compassion. "You are safe now, child," he said softly. Ethan was never truly human. He was a creature cursed to live among us, preying on those who trusted him. Ava could hardly process the words, but she nodded, tears streaming down her face. The old man approached her. "You have suffered much, but the nightmare is over. You are free." With those words, Ava felt a weight lift from her chest, as though the shadows that haunted her were finally gone. But she knew one thing for sure. The man she had married was not the man she had thought he was. She had learned the true meaning of darkness. As the old man helped her away from the ruins of her life with Ethan, Ava realized that, though the night was over, her journey had only just begun. There was a world beyond the darkness, one she would now have to face alone, but with newfound strength. And so, Ava walked away from the man who had betrayed her, free at last from his terrifying grip. The first light of dawn was breaking, painting the sky with hues of pink and orange. Still trembling from the events of the night, Ava sat on the porch of a modest house. The old man, whose name was Owen, had guided her away from the wreckage of her marriage and brought her here, to a place far from the city and from Ethan's cursed reach. Owen had spoken little on their journey. His presence was calm, almost meditative, but his eyes carried the weight of knowledge and sorrow. Now that they were safe, Ava felt a mix of exhaustion and confusion. Her mind was a storm of questions, but one stood above all the rest. What exactly was Ethan? Ava asked, her voice weak and hoarse. Owen settled beside her on the porch, his deep-set eyes studying the rising sun. Ethan was a demon, he said quietly, though he may not have known it for all these years. He was once a man, centuries ago, before he made a pact with a powerful spirit of darkness, a pact for immortality, one that allowed him to live forever at the cost of his humanity. Ava's breath caught in her throat. She had heard stories of such things in old folk tales, but never imagined it could be real. How could I have married him? How could I not have known? She whispered. Owen's gaze softened. That is the curse of the demon's disguise. They were the faces of men and women, hiding their true nature behind masks of charm and love. They seek out those with pure hearts, those willing to trust without question. It is not your fault, Ava. He preyed on your innocence, on your desire for love. Ava nodded, her eyes brimming with tears once again. But the housemaids, they were victims too, weren't they? She asked quietly. He killed them, fed on them. What kind of monster does that? The kind that can no longer feel empathy or remorse. Owen replied softly. Ethan, or whatever name he went by in his mortal life, was long lost to the hunger within him. Once he made that pact, his soul was bound to the demon's nature. He no longer saw people as human. They became food, objects to sustain his monstrous existence. His transformation into the beast you saw last night was only the physical manifestation of his true self, a predator. The weight of his words sank deep into Ava's chest. I was so blind, she whispered, her voice breaking. I never saw the signs. How did you know? How did you know he was a demon? Owen's face hardened. I have seen many things in my time. I've battled the darkness that threatens this world for longer than I care to remember. Demons like Ethan walk among us, feeding off the vulnerable. They weave their webs of lies and delusions, and it's easy to fall into them. But there are others like me, guardians who watch over the world, who protect the innocent from such creatures. Ava's curiosity began to override her grief. Guardians? What do you mean? Are there others like you? Owen nodded, his expression grave. We are called the Aya Orin, the Watchers of the Sky. We are an ancient order, tasked with keeping balance between the world of men and spirits. We have watched as the demons grow stronger as their hunger spreads. When they slip up, when they leave behind a trace, we act. But demons like Ethan, they are clever. They hide their true nature until it's too late. A flicker of hope rose within Ava Turner as she looked at the old man before her. So, you can stop them, right? She asked softly. Ethan is gone, but there are others like him. Can you stop them too? Owen's expression darkened, the candlelight catching the lines of age and wisdom etched into his face. Not all demons can be defeated with force, he said gravely. Some are bound to powers far older than this world, forces even I cannot control. But yes, there are ways. Ancient, dangerous rituals that can strip a demon of its immortality. But every time one is banished, the balance of the world is disturbed. And there are many who would rather keep that balance untouched, no matter how much evil it allows to thrive. Ava sat silently, absorbing every word. Her life had once been simple, predictable even, but that world was gone. Her marriage, her home, her sense of safety, all of it had been built on lies. Yet, in that brokenness, something new was awakening within her. A purpose. She had survived. She had escaped. And now she knew the truth. I don't want to run anymore, Ava said, her voice steady, filled with newfound resolve. If there are others like Ethan out there, I want to help you stop them. Owen studied her closely, his expression unreadable. Finally, he nodded. You are brave, Ava, he said. But be warned, the path you seek is filled with danger. There will be sacrifices. Are you willing to pay the price? Ava didn't hesitate. I've already lost everything, she said. I'd rather fight for the truth than live in fear. The old man gazed at her for a long moment, as if weighing her spirit. Then he stood, his shadow stretching long against the wall. Then you will be trained, he said solemnly. You will learn the ways of the Aya Orin, the Watchers of the Sky. You must awaken the power within you and learn to fight darkness with light. It will not be easy, but when the time comes, you will be ready. And so, Ava Turner's new journey began. Under Owen's guidance, she immersed herself in the ancient arts of the Aya Orin. She studied the symbols, rituals, and incantations used to reveal and banish creatures that hid in human form. She learned to sense the invisible, to read the tremors in the air where light and shadow met. Slowly, Ava discovered a strength within her she had never known existed. But no matter how much she learned, her thoughts always returned to Ethan Cole. Though he was gone, his darkness had not vanished. His hunger had left a stain, one that spread deeper than she'd ever imagined. There were others like him, and Ava was determined to find them. Months passed. Her training took her beyond the boundaries of Chicago, into forgotten forests, ruins buried beneath the earth, and temples where the veil between worlds was thin. She confronted restless spirits, battled lesser demons, and grew into a warrior of both courage and compassion. Yet one question haunted her constantly. Would the fight ever truly end? Could the demons ever be fully destroyed, or were they part of something eternal? A balance that could never be broken? One night, as Ava meditated under the stars, Auni approached quietly. His face was grave. "There's something you must know," he said, his voice low. Some among the Aya Orin believed that Ethan's death was not the end. They believed it was the beginning of a greater war, one that will shape the future of this world. Ava rose slowly, her heart tightening. "What do you mean?" "The darkness Ethan served," Owen said, "is far older than either of us. It is a power that feeds not only on flesh, but on the souls of the weak and the desperate. Ethan was merely a pawn, a fragment of a much larger design." A chill ran through Ava's body. Her hands trembled slightly as the magnitude of his words sank in. The battle she had fought in Chicago was only the beginning. And now, a greater darkness was awakening. As the moon rose high above the world, casting a silvery glow across the wilderness, Ava Turner stood at the edge of a cliff. The night air was still, too still, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Beneath the surface of the earth, she could feel it, a stirring, ancient and alive. Something was coming. The war between light and shadow had only just begun. Owen had been cryptic in his explanations, but now Ava Turner finally understood the truth. Ethan Cole hadn't been a rogue demon or an isolated anomaly. He was part of something far older, far darker. The entity was known only as Ilmo, the House of Spirits, a primordial force that fed on human suffering and fear, manipulating the fabric of reality to birth its chosen agents of destruction. Demons like Ethan were its pawns, creatures born of shadow, wrapped in human flesh, sent to infiltrate the world. They preyed on the innocent, spreading chaos and quietly draining the life from humanity, feeding the endless hunger of Ilmo that slept beneath creation. Every time a demon was slain, the entity grew wiser, learning, adapting, evolving. This was the war Ava had been dragged into, a war not a mere survival, but for the soul of the world itself. Under the guidance of Owen, the last elder of the Aya Orin, the ancient order of spirit guardians, Ava had learned to see the unseen, to feel the heartbeat of the world beneath the veil. She learned to summon light from her spirit, to push back the darkness, and to sense the presence of demons, even when they wore human faces. But with every lesson, a quiet dread took root in her heart. She realized this war wasn't just about strength. It was about will. The Aya Orin had long stood as guardians of balance between the mortal and spiritual worlds, but the scales had begun to tilt. Whispers move among the order. Ilmo was preparing its final move, a ritual, a catastrophic rite that would open a gateway between the spirit world and the human realm. Once opened, the darkness would pour through, flooding the world, consuming all light in its path. The Aya Orin had seen this in fragments, nightmares and visions that stained their dreams. Owen saw the ritual site, the Temple of the Crescent Moon, hidden deep within a jungle where reality thinned and the veil between worlds shimmered like smoke. It was there that Ilmo's followers would sacrifice 100 souls to fuel the gate. Ava's blood ran cold when she heard it. She remembered Molly, the missing housemaid who had vanished without a trace. What if she was one of them? What if all those who had disappeared in Chicago were part of the offering? The Aya Orin gathered their warriors, their chants echoing through the night, but Ava knew strength alone wouldn't be enough. The darkness that guarded the temple wasn't just made of demons. It was alive, ancient, and sentient. It had enslaved spirits older than time itself. As Ava prepared to leave, she stood before Owen, her mentor now hollow-eyed and weary from decades of battle. He placed a trembling hand on her shoulder. "You must understand, Ava," he said, his voice heavy with sorrow. "This is more than a fight of power. It's a battle of the soul. You will face not only the demons that walk the earth, but the darkness buried inside you." Ava's gaze didn't waver. "I've already faced a monster I loved," she whispered. "Whatever waits for me now can't be worse." Owen nodded slowly. "Then may the light of Orin guide you." As she stepped into the cold night, the Chicago skyline shimmered faintly in the distance. Unaware that beneath its glittering lights, an ancient war was about to begin, and at its heart stood Ava Turner, the woman who had once been a bride to a beast, now reborn as a hunter of darkness. Ava looked into Owen's eyes and saw the weight of his words. "I understand," she said softly. "I'm ready." "You may not be," Owen replied, his voice heavy with caution. "The ritual they're planning will test every part of you. It will take everything you have, and more. Eno will try to corrupt you, twist your heart. They know that the greatest weapon against the darkness is a pure soul, and they'll do everything in their power to break yours." Ava nodded, the truth settling deep in her chest. She had already lost so much: her marriage, her innocence, her sense of safety. But she had gained something far greater: the strength to fight, the wisdom to understand her enemies, and the resolve to face the darkness head-on. Days later, Ava and the other Aya, Orin, arrived at the Temple of the Crescent Moon. The air was thick with unnatural fog. The ground beneath their boots seemed to hum with energy. The temple towered before them, its stone walls etched with ancient runes that glowed faintly in the gloom. At the entrance waited twisted creatures, demons in their purest form, bodies contorted and grotesque, guarding the doorway with hungry eyes. Ava didn't flinch. She lifted her staff high, calling on the light Owen had taught her to wield. The ground trembled beneath her, and with a surge of raw power, she released a shockwave of brilliance that slammed into the temple gates. The demons shrieked as the light consumed them, their bodies disintegrating into ash. The path was clear, but as they moved deeper into the temple's heart, the darkness grew thicker, pressing against them, whispering in Ava's ear. It tempted her with promises of power, of vengeance, urging her to surrender to the shadows that had already claimed so many before her. The walls seemed to pulse with the heartbeat of Ilmo, the ancient force feeding on her fear and doubt. "Do not listen, Ava," Owen warned, his face grim, his voice echoing through the chamber. "The darkness feeds on hesitation. Stay focused." Together they pressed on until they reached the grand chamber. At its center stood a dark altar, its surface slick with the blood of innocence. Above it, a swirling vortex of shadow, and light grew wider with every passing second. Ava's heart pounded. The portal was almost open. The world teetered on the brink of being consumed by darkness. As she and the Aya Orin drew closer, a strange calm fell over them. The deeper they ventured, the more oppressive the air became, thick with 1,000 years of dark energy. The stone walls seemed to close in, their runes flickering like dying stars. A freezing wind snaked through the chamber, biting into their bones. Then the ground shuddered. A presence filled the air, vast, ancient, and malignant. It wasn't a creature. It wasn't a demon. It was Eno itself, the primeval entity that sought to tear open the veil and drown the world in eternal night. "Stay strong," Owen whispered, raising his staff as a faint light pulsed at its tip. "This isn't like anything you've faced before. It will cloud your mind, make you doubt everything you are." And as they stepped into the heart of the ritual, the full horror unfolded before them. The swirling portal roared above a black obsidian altar slick with blood, the 100 souls Ilmo had claimed. Around it knelt the remaining demons, their faces twisted in worshipful ecstasy as the darkness bled into the air. The ritual had already begun. Ava's heart pounded in her chest, her breath shallow as she scanned the chamber. The Aya Orin raised their staffs, ready to strike, but something in the air told her that force alone would not be enough. This battle would not be won by power or even by light. Then the voice came, soft but insistent, curling through the edges of Ava's mind like smoke. "Come to me, Ava. You have felt the power within you. You've tasted the sweetness of revenge. Join me. and you will have everything you desire: the power to destroy your enemies, to reshape the world in your image. No one will ever stand against you. Her pulse quickened. The voice was alluring, tempting, like a whisper from her deepest pain. She had lost so much: her marriage, her trust, her peace. Could this darkness truly offer her a way to avenge it all? You were once a woman of light, Ava. The voice continued, smoother now, coaxing. But you are more than that. You have a fire within you, a fire that can burn away weakness and lies. Let go of the past. Embrace your true power. Together, we can build a new world. Ava stumbled, one hand gripping her staff for balance. She could feel it, the pull of the darkness she had been trained to resist. The temptation was overwhelming, seeping into her bones. Her resolve wavered. From the corner of her eye, she saw Owen raise a staff, chanting words of protection. Light flared from its tip, momentarily pushing back the shadows pressing in around them. But Ava's mind was clouded, her heart torn. Do it, Ava, the voice purred. The power is yours for the taking. Join me, and no one will ever make you suffer again. Her grip tightened. The choice loomed before her: give into the darkness and become its vessel, or resist it and trust the fragile light that had always guided her. But the light had not protected her from Ethan's lies, from Molly's screams, from betrayal that had shattered her world. The pain was endless, and now the darkness promised an end to it all. Ava squeezed her eyes shut, trying to block out the voice, but only grew louder, filling her mind with poison whispers. Rage ignited within her chest, burning hot. But this was not the fire of justice. It was vengeance. What are you afraid of, Ava? You are stronger than all of them. You deserve to be free. You deserve to be powerful. She took a trembling step forward, drawn toward the obsidian altar where the ritual pulsed with blood and shadow. But before she could move closer, a voice cut through the darkness, strong, desperate, and clear. Ava, don't listen. Owen's voice thundered. The darkness lies. It will swallow you whole. Her eyes flew open, and in that instant, clarity pierced the fog. The voice of Eno had filled her with doubt and anger, but it had also revealed something crucial. Its true power wasn't in destruction. It was in corruption. It thrived by twisting hearts, by breaking the souls of those it touched. Ava turned to Owen, her voice steady. I understand now. The real battle isn't about defeating the demons. It's about defeating the darkness inside me. With a cry that echoed through the chamber, Ava Turner raised her staff and unleashed the full light of her soul. It poured from her like a flood, pure, unyielding, unstoppable. The dark voice screamed in fury, but Ava pushed forward, every ounce of her being burning with light. She reached deep within herself, past the pain, past the rage, and found the core of who she was: love, courage, and the will to protect. The portal above the altar shuddered violently. The swirling vortex of shadow flickered, fighting against the brilliance of her light. Demons shrieked as their bodies crumbled into dust, unable to withstand her purity. Ava pressed on. The light from her staff grew brighter, enveloping the entire chamber, searing through the darkness. And with one final burst, a radiant explosion that shook the temple to its foundations, she shattered the portal. The darkness howled, recoiling into the abyss from which it came. The Aya Orin gathered around her, their lights merging with hers to seal the gateway for good. Silence fell. The temple walls began to crumble, dust cascading from above. But Ava stood tall, her eyes fixed on the fading glow where the portal had been. She knew the truth now. Ilmo would return. New demons would rise. This war was not one of single victories. It was a war of choices. The choice to resist the darkness. The choice to protect the light. As dawn's first light pierced through the broken ceiling, Ava Turner lowered her staff. Her heart was no longer ruled by fear or vengeance. She had chosen her path, and whatever came next, she would face it with the strength of her own light,